7, runners meet in mass in front of the town hall, and at 8, the bulls are let loose, sprinting up Santo Domingo, around La Curva or Dead Man's Curve, on the Calle Estafeta, and finally into the bull ring.
Hemingway once said that courage is grace under pressure, an ideal he saw best embodied by Spain's bullfighters.